If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for another live stream episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. Really appreciate you joining us. Over the years I've been doing this, over 10 years, you wouldn't believe how many times I've heard people make the comment, I'd love to go out and look for dogmen. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't it be really exciting? Well, talking about it's one thing, doing it, totally different matter. Well, for tonight's show, I decided to mix things up and do things a little different. Instead of bringing an eyewitness on and having them tell us about their encounter, I've got two dogman researchers on the show tonight who are going to come on and basically flesh out what it's like to go into the field looking for these things, what kind of planning's involved, what to expect when you're out there in the field, experiences they've had, both frightening and some that weren't. Well, without any further ado, let's just bring them in here now. Tonight's first guest is Jessica Jones, A.K.A. the Cryptid Huntress. Got you in the studio, and our other guest tonight is Drewski with Cryptid Warfare. Jess and Drew, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having us. Been looking forward to this. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, right on, Vic. Appreciate it, brother.
You're welcome. That goes two ways. It's great to have you. And of course, I really appreciate your time. Jess, both you and Drew are neck deep in the cryptid field and have been so for a long time. Please tell us how you got here.
Well, I'll tell you, I started off as a Bigfoot field researcher. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of what I do. Is getting out. I'm on I'm on 5 different teams now, field research teams, and I've been doing this since 2011. I go out all over the southeastern region of the United States. We have several hot spots that we go and research over and over again. I've even been up to New York. I see Long Island Bigfoot. Mike up in the chat tonight, and I've been up to New York and done some cryptid hunting up there with him as well. But I pretty much stay around the southeast, especially down here with the Cryptid Warfare fellows with Drewski and that team. We get out and do a lot of research in the deep woods. But yeah, I've been in it for a while, and I never ever thought I'd be talking publicly about any of this. I started off with one of my teams. We kind of, I'm not going to say we all had to sign NDAs and stuff. That first team I didn't, but as I progressed and got on more, different teams and stuff, I really never even thought I'd ever talk about it publicly. And, but here I am, got a YouTube channel and all that today. But yeah, I just love going out and chasing things in the woods at night. And I know it sounds kind of wild. It's not for everybody, but I got great teams. And I trust everybody with my life on those teams. And it kind of progressed from going from Bigfoot field research to pretty much hunting everything that was out there. And it's not that I'm out there hunting. I've been investigating. Okay, I'm researching, I'm investigating. With Cryptid Warfare, we do get out there and kind of not only investigate and do research, but we're on the hunt out there a little bit more than the other teams. And I'll let Drewski talk about that tonight. For the most part, but yeah, it's just a natural progression, like I said, and I got really interested in the dogman phenomenon while I was doing my Bigfoot research. We were having a lot of strange tracks in the fields, wolf-like tracks. One of the head of one of my teams, Bob Wilson, he's passed away recently, but head of the North Georgia Cryptid Field Researchers. He was actually the regional director, Region 5 director of the North American Dogman Project for a long time. And that's how I learned most of what I know about Dogman was through Bob. And we would go to places like Middle Georgia. There's an area that we researched called the Troop Herd Corridor. And not only do they have a lot of Bigfoot activity down there, a lot of UFOs, it's well known for mass alien abductions that happen in that area, but a lot of dogman sightings happen down there. And so that's one of our team's research areas was down there. I had to get prepared for some dogman action. We started doing our research down there because I'm used to the Bigfoot, the Bigfoot action. But we ended up, preparing for Dogman Encounters down there in that area. Also, I live in the Northwest Georgia area, and it really is wonderful to have friends who work at the sheriff's department where I live, because uh, having friends that work at the 911 call center and some of the deputies, I started getting, I had my ear to the street, so to say, as a field researcher, and people that worked in those arenas knew that I did cryptid field research. And so when they would get calls in, they would let me know in regards to, sightings of wolfmen and things like that. There's a pretty well-known dogman that's been sighted in the northern part of the county that I lived in, up in Northwest Georgia, for decades. And they actually I think they call it the North Paulding werewolf, or the North Paulding dogman. Okay. And so I actually have gone out to investigate that before. It's only about, I'm going to say it's about 10 miles from the Etowah Indian Mound, maybe 10, 15 minutes from the Indian Mounds. And Vic, I know from all the people that you've had on your shows, there's some kind of connection to Indian mounds, these burial mounds that we have here, especially around here in the South, and some of the dogman sightings and encounters. So, and waterfalls too. There's a waterfall right there where these sightings have been. But that's really how I got interested in the dogman phenomena. It was because we were getting not only reports of Bigfoot, but also dogmen as well in some of the areas that I research. And of course, Bob, the head of one of my field teams, he would go out and take reports from these investigations with the North American Dogman Project in the area where we live, because he lived not too far from me, and so he was that person that would go take those reports. So that's kind of how I got into it. I've always had I got my feet wet way back in the day with all this phenomenon, and so here I am today, hanging out with Drewski and his Cryptid Warfare operators and survivalist team, and they're real active. We've gone on several field investigations, and it's wonderful. I love it. Like I said earlier, it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for me and for Drewski too, I'm assuming. Right, Drew?
Mm-hmm.
Jess, I really don't know how you do it all. I don't. You don't let any grass grow under your feet. I mean, you're always out and about, going on research outings and doing this show, hosting that show, being a guest on podcasts. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. There's not enough time in one day.
It's because I love what I do. It's not work to me. This is fun. It's so much fun. I am so blessed to be able to do this and to get out. And I gotta say, like, I guess people are like, well, why do you even do this? It's crazy. Why would a girl like you go out and go dogman hunting? Well, you know what? Because you have to kind of have no fear about stuff. And I honestly am, and I'm not saying I don't ever get scared. Okay, I'm not saying that. There have definitely been times where I have been rattled, I guess you could say, but I love it, and I just want to know more. And I want to see a dog. I want to see a dogman. I've had some encounters out there that absolutely I do believe could have been dogman, but I have not seen a dogman up close, face to face yet. I know from listening to your encounters, Vic, to listening to Dogman Encounters, it's not something that everybody looks forward to, and it's not something that people like. I know that, but like I said, it's what I do, and it's what I love, and I look forward to it one day, to having an up close Dogman encounter.
Well, if you beat in the bushes the way you do, I think it is just a matter of time. And when you do finally have that experience, I hope it's a good one and not a bad one, because I can tell you enjoy doing this so much. It really would be a shame for a bad encounter to frighten you away from all this, because I can tell you get so much out of it. You clearly do.
I do. And I love sharing my stories, my encounters with everybody. I don't hold anything back these days. And when I first started doing cryptid field investigations and research, it wasn't cool back then. To me, it was cool, but to the rest of the world, I was crazy. And so I kept it quiet. I waited 10 years to even speak publicly at all about any of my field research when it came to this, because back in the day, back in 2011, it hadn't been that long ago. Not everybody had, those Bigfoot stickers on the back of their vehicles and stuff. it was more hush hush, and I have a background in working with in the government. I ran a state agency for almost 20 years. And so I was not going to be telling all the people I worked with, hey, I'm out there chasing Bigfoot and hunting Dogman when I was going to work and stuff. I just didn't want to. I didn't want people to know because they already thought I was a little crazy, a little wild and crazy, since I was going camping so often.
Yeah, there's no future in letting that cat out of the bag at work. If you let people know that, then you might get your walking papers soon. So I don't blame you for not letting that out. Drew, how about you? How did you find yourself getting into searching for cryptids?
Yeah, man. Hey, what's going on, guys? Vic, I just want to say thanks for letting me come on as well. And yeah, to answer your question,
Hey, not to interrupt you, Drew, but you're a little quiet. Can you move closer to the microphone?
is that better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better there. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So basically, it started. Well, I guess I should say back when I was like backpacking with my dad. My dad was a big time bushcraft and survivalist guy. He's definitely a mountain man. He's pushing like late 60s, and he still goes out in the mountains by himself, which I always warn against him to do it, but he don't care. He said he'd rather die in the mountains than anywhere else, so he loves it. But anyways, yeah, he's the one who taught me a lot of like backpacking, bushcraft, survival stuff, all that stuff. So yeah, so whenever him and I would go out, basically when I was in high school, he'd call me up and he'd be like, "Hey, brother, I'm gonna pick you up at this time. Just make sure that your bag's ready." So whenever he picked me up, we'd literally just packed what we could in a backpack and we just go hiking in the mountains in Colorado. So, and then at the same time, we would actually figure out on, you would find out quick on like what you needed and what you don't need and what's extra weight and what's not. So, but at the same time, we were out there, he was just kind of like getting me prepared. Like, hey, there's a lot more things out here, than just animals. So, according to the Native Americans and stuff like that. So I don't know if he had a sighting or what, but he knew that there were things out there. So he always warned me, hey, when you're out here, respect the land. If you have a gut feeling that something's bad, turn around and walk away. If you hear things, that are out of the ordinary, just turn around and just walk away. So, but he's the one who basically planted like that seed in my head. And then after that, it really didn't take full effect. It really didn't take full effect on me until I was in law enforcement. I worked for the state of Colorado, and basically I was part of this TAC team, and we had to go help this escape team for the state of Colorado find this escaped convict. So me and a couple other guys were part of this TAC team, which is a SWAT team, and a couple of three-letter alphabet agencies. And anyway, so we're out there in the mountains of Colorado looking for this guy, and so basically in a nutshell, we were actually with this tracking team gaining ground on this guy who was wanted. And as we're walking up this mountain, we actually had a bunch of different teams dropped off on different parts of the mountain. We're basically trying to corner this guy in, and it's basically almost like dusk going into nighttime. And as we're walking up this mountain, like me and a couple guys on the SORT team, we're hearing things walking, like paralleling us, that were a good like 50 to like 100 yards out. But we couldn't see anything, but we just hear it. And then I got on my comms and radio and was telling the guys that were like, "Hey, are you guys hearing anything?" And they're like, "Roger that, man. We're here. I'm hearing something on my right." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm hearing something on my left." So we really didn't think anything of it, but we're actually just trying to pay attention to it at the same time we were trying to find this escaped convict. So anyways, so one of the guys who was running point said, "Hey, on 3, we're going to stop real quick. 1, 2, 3. And we all stopped. And then we heard this thing on my left, and then my partner had this thing on his right. They took 2 extra steps. And we're like, this is weird. But we're trying to bring it up on our nods, which is night vision goggles and flare camera and all that, and nothing. We can't see anything. But we can hear something, but we can't see it. So I knew there was some spooky stuff out there, but like I said, we really try not to pay attention to it because we actually had an objective, was to find this guy. So to speed it up, we actually find this guy. We bring him down the mountain. We hand him over to the feds, and then we actually had assigned basically had assigned like in our reports from who, what, when, why, where, right, on everything we did from start to finish. So I put in the report at the same time we're tracking this guy, we were hearing noises to our left and to our right, and then I basically kicked that report out. And then my captain came back about half an hour later. He's like, "Hey, you need to change this, you need to change that." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Just don't get into nitty-gritty details. Just take that out." All right, roger that. So that kind of sparked my interest on, okay, it kind of brought me in the whole Bigfoot thing, like, okay, there's something out there for sure. And then after that, I talked to my teammates about it, and one of them was gung-ho about it. He's like, "Yeah, man, I do believe there are things out there in the mountains that we have no idea what's out there." And a lot of the other guys were like, "Ah, you're crazy." So I was actually in the same boat Jessica was in. I kind of got into this very underground, and I really didn't let hardly anybody know about it except for my wife and maybe one or two to three people. That was it. So I started going out on backpacking trips and stuff on the weekends with me and like two other guys, and we would just go out just to see, you know, if we would collect any evidence or just to see if we see anything or have an experience. But really wasn't no luck in Colorado. But then after 2014, I moved over here to Tennessee, and then one of the guys at my church, he was the head of a security team, and my wife told him a little bit about me, and about like 6 months later of us living here, I seen him with the Bigfoot hat on, and I kind of made a comment. I was like, "Hey, man, so I like that hat, man. So do you believe, or do you like it just because it's starting to become like a pop culture thing?" And he pulls me aside. He's like, "Are you like, do you like legit believe in these things or no?" And I told him, "Well, that's the reason why I'm asking you, man." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I go out and research for these things." I was like, "Awesome. I like to do that too. When could we do it?" And he's like, "Man, I got a sponsored Bigfoot hunt coming up if you want to go." I'm like, "Heck yeah, man, let's do it." So that kind of sped up that thing. And in 2015, I just kind of took the ground running here in Tennessee, I should say. So to where we're at now. So I just kind of gathered all the guys on my team. Every year, I just kind of vet guys, and because a lot of guys I got on my team are ex-military, ex-law enforcement, ex-bounty hunter, survivalist, stuff like that. So we're all the same mindset, and we just want to go out there and research, and to basically prove to the world that a lot of these people who have encounters, that they're not crazy, they are real, they are legit, and that way we can have some closure, for basically. For all of the naysayers, I should say. So, yeah. So, other than that, I want to give a shout out to all the guys on my team real quick. Podunk, T, BX, Juice, and Wee Man. And then also, I guess Amber wanted me to give her a shout out. So, hey, what's up, Amber? And yeah, man. So that's basically how I got into it here in Tennessee. So, and just went from there, hit the ground running.
Yeah, I'd say you did. Drew, you describe yourself as being a warrior of the Almighty whose devotion to Christ is unwavering. How did you come to have such a strong sense of faith?
Well, I should say, so I'll just put it in a nutshell. My stepdad's the one who introduced me and my mom to Christ. So, so in a nutshell, like my dad divorced my mom when I was 3. Me and my mom were on the street for a little while, and then we actually got a hold of my aunts, and then we started living with her. Then my mom married this guy when I was 8. He introduced us to Christ, and after that, I was just a fiend for the Bible, man. I just read that thing like nothing, And not only that, like not having like a father figure for a while, I really got it when it came to Jesus, not having a physical father. And not only that, how it says in Scripture, if you don't have a father or a mother, you actually have God, who actually sticks close to you, more than a friend. So I really definitely held on to that. And not only that, just seeing things in my life, like looking back at it, I can really tell God was there in in a big way. And not only that, I look at him as my Lord and Savior, but I also look at him as a father as well, as a dad. So, you know, I don't know, it's just that thing, man. I definitely just want to have a relationship with them every day, man. So that's actually what I strive to do. And not only that too, what really brought open in the Bible for me was in Genesis 6 and then in Psalms 82. You know, the fallen angels came down and basically, in a nutshell, how they fornicated with women, how they did sin against the plants and the animals, and also too in Revelation 6:8, it really popped out to me how the third of mankind are going to be devoured by the beasts of the earth. So it's just like, what? It just, yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's all I got. I'm just going on a tangent. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, it goes without saying, I love the way you think. Do you think there's an element of spiritual warfare going on, and that explains why cryptids are here?
Yeah, I do 100%. Well, it's like basically how I told Jessica one time. I think cryptids are in 3 categories, right? To me, they're kind of like nouns, you know, like persons, place, or things. So I do believe that there's a spiritual side of it. I do believe that there's a physical side of it, and I do believe that there's a governmental side of it. And you know, and there's been a lot of cases where it comes to UFOs, Bigfoots, Dogmen, how people use in the name of Jesus to condemn these things, and a lot of them have stopped them in their tracks and they've walked away. So, you know, I've noticed, you know, there's actually power in the name of Jesus. And yeah, and not only that, just basically doing like a lot of researching on part of my language on how to kill these things if the time came to it, if you're being threatened with your life or you're trying to protect your family. There's some elements of spirituality on when it comes to dealing with these things. So yeah.
Well, a lot of people talk about that. Some people swear up and down that they have to be demonic entities straight from hell, and that's how they do so many of the things they do, and I can't argue with that. Other people have their opinions on what these things are. So, yeah, the opinions run the gamut, but it really is awfully hard to explain away all these things they do by just saying that they are flesh and blood creatures out there trying to make a living. I've got to give you that.
Yeah, I agree.
Jess, like you mentioned a bit ago, you have a team of researchers that you put together who help you go out and research cryptids. What made you decide to put that team together instead of going it alone?
Well, I actually joined some of those teams. Okay, so I'm not actually the organizer of those teams. Like I said, I'm going to say 5 now. 5 research teams. I didn't start off looking for, you know, Bigfoot and cryptids and dogmen on my own. I was invited to go on an expedition for the very first time, just because out of my curiosity. I talked to a group of some Bigfoot field researchers out of North Georgia. They invited me out, and so I took the opportunity. Listen, I never turned down an opportunity to do something really crazy. Okay, so that's kind of how it all started. Was I wanted to have an experience. I wanted to see a Bigfoot, and I thought, well, what better way than to go into the woods with a bunch of strange dudes by myself and just go, you know, let's just go see what happens. And so that's what I did. And I had so much crazy stuff that happened during that expedition as far as cryptids go that I got sucked into it. I literally got sucked into it. I couldn't walk away from it after seeing the things that I saw and experiencing the things that I experienced. So, and it's interesting because a lot of those teams, like 3 of those teams, actually are kind of rollovers of, you know, where it's kind of the same people in a couple of those teams, but it's just in different regions. Like one of my teams, like ERG, is kind of based in North Georgia. ASOG, Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, they're kind of based more out of kind of like Alabama and West Georgia. North Georgia Cryptid Researchers is also kind of in Northwest Georgia. Seekers now is kind of what North Georgia Cryptid Researchers used to be. That's our new group. That's kind of the Troop Herd Corridor area down in Middle Georgia. And now I've got Cryptid Warfare operators, and they're based out of Tennessee, but we pretty much have done investigations all over from, you know, Alabama to Tennessee and North Georgia actually recently. So, you know, I'm pretty particular about who I go out in the woods with and who I do research with, because it's well, first of all, it's dangerous. And I'm pretty particular because, it's really important for everybody to have an open mind about what goes on out there, because, you go out there, you might want to go look for Bigfoot and do some research on that. But chances are you're going to run into other things. And that includes dogmen. That includes even ETs, portals, you name it. My team has encountered a lot of strange things, a lot of stuff that we weren't expecting, let's just say, out there. So I think it's important. I'd never, ever go out in the woods by myself. I don't recommend that. I know there are people who go and research alone, and that's okay, to each his own. But I'm real big on this missing 411 phenomenon. Okay, all these missing people at our national parks. And of course, we do a lot of our research. Most of my research is done at national and state parks across the South, where there are clusters of missing people. So I don't do it on my own. Here's another little aspect too. I'm a mom, and I have a kid, and I don't take him to these dangerous places. He does not go, researching with me, with my teams. But if we go camping, if it's something that's just kind of fun and it's safer to bring him, I do take him out there. Of course, we got to raise up the next generation of cryptid field researchers somehow. So he's out there doing that. But I'm real particular about it, about taking him places, because it can be very dangerous out there. And safety is first. And you turn your back for 1 second, the person behind you is gone forever. Okay, so yeah, to the audience, everybody who's listening, please don't go out in the woods by yourself, especially unless you tell somebody where you're going. Have a GPS, spot device. Just let somebody know where you're going. Don't go alone.
Yeah, that's always really good advice. Jess, you do tons of field research and don't seem to be too afraid of going places that a lot of researchers just wouldn't go, or at least would be really reluctant to go. Have you ever come to regret that?
I have never regretted it. No, not once. I can't think of a single time I've regretted it. I go out there with, like I said, I got my teams, and I trust my life with everyone out there. Like I would lay my life down for every single person on every one of my teams that I'm on, and they would do the same for me. And I know they would. So no, I've never regretted it. Actually, the scarier, the better in my book. I know it sounds crazy, but I do this for the purpose of the experience of it, and I want to see all that life has to offer, and all the cryptids that are out there. And my teams actually take a really interesting approach to the research, and that's why I wanted to go out there with that first team that I ever went out with, Enigma Research Group. Those gentlemen had already established a relationship and established that cryptids did inhabit this area that they researched. So it went from, they had already gone past that level of like, oh, let's see, improve, and get the castings, the footprint cast, and the evidence, the hair evidence, all that stuff. I mean, the team was already full of former military guys, and also wildlife biologists. I mean, you name it. I mean, nuclear physicists are on my team. I mean, we have such a wide variety of people on that team. But they had already established that cryptids inhabited this area. They had moved on from that aspect to, well, now we're trying to communicate with them. Okay, so we know they're there. We've established they're there. We've been going there for decades. Now we're going to start communicating with them. And they were focusing on like a mind, body, spirit connection to cryptids, which was mind blowing to me. Because, you mentioned the spiritual warfare aspect of it. And there is something, there's more to these cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot, whatever's out there. There's more to it than just being flesh and bone. And there's a spiritual aspect to it. There's and I do believe, like, through all my experience of encountering cryptids out there, there's different types. It's just like humans. Okay, like there's some, let's say Bigfoot, because that's my specialty, right? There's some that are just constantly out there looking for food, and they're animalistic. There's some that are very like telepathic. and will communicate with humans. Okay, and just a little more advanced, or a lot more advanced than some. Just like humans. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to diss on humans, but some people are a little more advanced than others. Okay, I'm just saying, and I mean that in the sweetest, nicest way. I promise. But it's just the truth. And I mean, it's just like, Lord, there are humans that are loving and gentle, and then there's humans that will eat you, just like with cryptids. So that's been my experience. But yeah, it's it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
That did. Yeah, definitely never a dull moment. Not when you do what you do, and Drew as well. Drew, what would you say has been the most intense experience that you've had in the field? And did it almost cause you to hang it all up?
Yeah, we actually had a certain incident over in Mountain City, Tennessee. This was like 2 years ago. This is when I was starting to build up, basically, I was starting to build up like the guys on my team. And yeah, so one of the guys on my team, Man, he was a big proponent on Reddit and Facebook and stuff like that. So we would, because right now this organization I got, CW Operations as well, they try to help people that are having problems right with these things. So we're trying to give them some advice, basically trying to act like consultants, stuff like that. And if we need be, we're just to protect these guys, if it comes to prayer, spiritual stuff, or if not physical, we set up and we just just do our thing. But anyways, in a nutshell, the guy on our team, Man, he did a lot of online stuff and all that. So he hit me up and he's like, "Hey man, I think we got something over in Mountain City, Tennessee. That's basically on the eastern tip where Tennessee meets like the Carolinas. So it's like right when like the Appalachian Mountains start and all that. So anyways, yes, this lady contacted him and she's basically saying that in her house backs up to the mountains and there's been like a lot of homeless, getting killed out there, according to like their law enforcement, with just with like a animal attacks and stuff like that. And not only that, there's been like a lot of like mutilations when it comes to cattle, chickens, stuff like that. So, and they actually had like a lot of logging roads out there, and a couple of like the loggers were kind of spooked, to go out a little ways. So, and then so that had some more digging. We talked to local law enforcement. They told us there's been a lot of situations out there, people going missing and stuff. So we're like, hey, we're actually on the right track. So we'll actually plan it out and we'll go out there. So I got my team of guys to go, and the next thing I know, a lot of guys have like scheduling conflicts. But we actually promised this lady that we'd actually go out there. So I was like, you know what, screw it, let's just go. So there was only 3 of us that went instead of the usual 7. So I will never do that again. But anyways, so we actually went out there. We talked to her. We talked to some locals. We talked to a couple guys in law enforcement, and they pointed us in the right direction. They're like, hey, if you go down like these certain logging roads, it gets pretty heavy out there. So, if you can, just be careful, protect your guys' self if you need be. And, just let us know what time, like, you're going to be leaving tomorrow and all that. And we're like, yeah, man. So we basically gave them all the details and info. So they point us in the right direction. So we start driving on these logging roads, and we're going miles and miles deep. And so we go basically as far as the truck can go. And then we get out and we hike like a little ways in, and it basically ends up in like this little holler. You got like these rolling hills and these mountains like on all sides of us. And so I'm the type of guy who's being a survivalist and law enforcement and stuff. I always try to set a perimeter alarm, basically like a 50-foot perimeter alarm all the way around our campsite. So as the guys were setting up camp, that's what I was doing. And then it's pushing like 10 o'clock at night. T gets the fire going. And I'm though, Taylor, T, I'm actually vetting him at this time. So he wants to go out. He wants to be a part of the team, but he's actually he's on that line where he's a skeptic and he's not. So he does believe that there's things out there, but you know, he's like, I'm the type of guy I have to physically hear it or see it or just, you know, be in that situation. So I'm like, well, this seems like a good opportunity for you. So yeah, so he came along. But anyways, so after they get done cooking dinner and stuff, we're just sitting down eating, and then Wee Man goes in his tent and he's like, hey guys, I'm gonna crash out a little bit. It's been a long day. I'm like, yeah man, go for it. So me and T are at the fire, just chilling out, sitting down, just talking, and it's pushing like 12 o'clock at night, and fire's starting to die down a little bit. And for everybody, going on a side note on what Jessica said, if you guys are going out there, bring something to protect yourself with. Bear mace, a firearm, a knife, something, you know, go with multiple people. Because let's say hypothetically, if something happens, you break your leg or something, you're by yourself, you're SOL, guys. You're basically screwed. So, you know, you always have somebody there to help you out. We call them battle buddies. So, you know, thank God for battle buddies. But anyways, so him and I are just sitting there chatting. Next thing we know, we're hearing some rocks and some tree branches break about a good 500 yards up from us on the north side coming down this mountain. And then my buddy T looks at me and he's like, what's that, man? Is someone coming down the mountain? I'm like, yeah, man, I think so. And so we're just listening and we're hearing this thing just come down the mountain. So I'm thinking it's a deer or whatnot. He is too. And then this thing ends up about a good 150 yards away from us. And not mind you, it's actually pitch black out there. And we hear stop. And then next thing we know, we hear something on the left of us start moving. And then we hear something on the right of us running. There's a difference. If any of you guys are hunters out there or been in the woods long enough, you know the difference between someone running bipedal or something running on four legs. So we heard something bipedal running on the left of us. I'm sorry, on the right of us. And as we're focusing and we're just quiet, next thing we know, like the north alarm goes off. So what sucks about, hey, what's going on, Larry? What sucks about those certain type of alarms that I actually put up is that I have to go physically, I actually have to go physically check them and set them up again. So that's what we had to do. So basically the north alarm goes off. We get in frontal assault mode, rifles up, and we just go towards the alarm. And I reset it. I didn't hear anything. The south alarm. Next thing we know, the east alarm
Hey, not to
goes
interrupt
off,
you there,
the
Drew,
west
but
alarm-
you're cutting
What?
in and out. Can you hear me?
Oh, is that better? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully you won't have any other problems. I don't know if it's a Wi-Fi issue, but yeah, you were cutting in and out there. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
Oh, okay. You're good, brother. You're good, man. So basically, in a nutshell, all the alarms were going off, and it was getting pretty hairy. So I literally just picked a tree trunk about a good 20 yards away, and I just popped off 3 shots. Boom, boom, boom. And the next thing we know, four-wheelers are crashing through the freaking trees. So next thing we know, Paul jumps out of the tent. He's like, hey, man, you guys good? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm pretty sure we had contact. He's like, well, yeah, I heard that gunfire, so I got up real quick. And I'm like, I think we're okay now. He's like, okay, man, I'm just going to go back in the tent and just chill out, but I'll leave my flap open in the tent. I'm like, all right, man. So me and T are just kind of like bug-eyed listening, and he's kind of freaking out a little bit. So next thing we know, it starts to rain. The fire dies out. So me and T decide, just to go in our tents. So everything kind of dies down. Well, he goes to sleep. I'm not. I'm seriously wide awake. I throw on my night vision. I prone out in my tent. I got my rifle up and ready, and I'm just chilling, just watching, just listening. Well, I start to doze off. And next thing I know, I wake up hearing like a zombie, like that. But I get out of my tent real quick and I look, and it's T, and he's throwing up. And next thing I know, the alarm behind him goes off. The tree starts shaking. And next thing I know, all the alarms go off on every side of us. So he gets up. I get up. I start firing at a certain tree trunk, because here's the deal. If you guys are carrying weapons out there and you don't know what you're shooting at, don't do it. just pick a tree trunk, just do like a warning shot, because you don't know if it's a human, you don't know if it's a park ranger, you don't know if it's anything like that. But if you want to give a warning shot, just pick a giant tree or fire at the ground or something, just to basically, just to give them a warning or just to scare people away. So that's basically what we did. So, we did not want to fire in the dark in the middle of nothing, and not knowing what we're shooting at, but we wanted to give a warning. So that's basically what we did. So I picked the tree trunk, he picked the tree trunk, and we just fired 5 shots from our ARs. Boom, 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 boom. And then these things take off running again. So I'm like, dude, they're freaking toying with us. Well, T was like, dude, what the heck's going on with me? So I kind of educated him on infrasound. I was like, look, man, here's the deal. First of all, I want to know what happened to you. He's like, well, I know all of us ate the same thing. You're fine. Little wee wee's fine. All I heard behind me, I woke up hearing like a grunt, like that, almost kind of like a monkey sound. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I sit up on my cot, and then I hear a big growl, like a grunt. And he said it felt like somebody hit me with a bat on my back. And next thing I know, my head starts to spin. So I get out of my tent to get some air, and I'm looking up at the stars, and everything just starts spinning, and I just start throwing up. And I feel like my insides are shaking. And then as I'm throwing up, I hear you come out. I see you, and then the alarms go off, and then that's when all hell breaks loose, he said. So, and then he kind of started to tear up a little bit, and he's like, dude, like I 100% believe there are things out here that seriously that go bump in the night and people see stuff. And he's like, I'm totally 100% in, man. I'm all the way in. So yeah. So after that though, we stood up the whole night after that, Vic. We stood up the whole night. We had about a good 3 to 4 hours left until the sun came up. So him and I were like back to back, just listening to these things, test the perimeter, shaking trees a little bit, doing grunts. And they're just walking. They're basically just keeping out of sight. So we're basically throwing up our rifles with the freaking AR lasers and lights and stuff. We can't see anything, but we know they're right outside. They're literally right outside the freaking light, man. So I throw on my night vision. I can't see anything, but I hear them, man. So I don't know if they're cloaking. I don't know if they're far enough out, but these things are amazing for how heavy they are. They can be quiet. They can be stealthy. They seriously just amaze me. But after that, the sun came up. Everything got quiet. Little wee wee got up. Toy soldier got up. And he's like, hey, man, I heard you guys popping off some shots again. We good? I was like, tell you what. Since you didn't interact, you're cooking breakfast. Me and T are going to go out and see if we see anything. So he started cooking breakfast. Me and T went outside the perimeter just to see if we can see any footprints or anything like that. The problem was this was in the middle of November. Of course, you guys who live in the South, all the leaves have fallen by then. Everything's just straight up, just mush. So we didn't see any footprints because, of course, all the leaves were covering everything. But we saw pathways of where these things came down. So we followed this path that was going south. We go up this ridge, and as soon as we crest the top of this ridge, it was just the Appalachian Mountains as far as we can see, man. And then that's when it totally hit T. He's like, dude, these things were coming in. They smelt our food. Of course, they seen us a mile off, and they were just coming out here, just to investigate us. And I told him, I was like, man, if we would have hit one of these things, bro, it could have been really, really bad. And honestly, I don't think we would have made it out alive, man. Because these 223 5.56s ain't gonna do nothing, dog. I go, not only that, I packed 8 mags, you only packed 2 mags, and Paul only brought his pistol. So that was stupid. And I'm never doing this again without bringing more than at least 5 guys. And we're coming definitely more heavy powered rifles and stuff like that. But as far as that, we're out there to have the experience. Well, we straight up got it. And that kind of actually set me back for about a good 6 to 8 months, man. Like I kind of had to get my whole ground and, basically just rethink on what I need to do and kind of just chill out from the woods a little bit because it got pretty hairy pretty quick, man. So it's actually one of the scary moments I've had. And not only that, I felt like I had to protect T as well and Paul because I was kind of the veteran part of it. I've been doing this longer than anybody, but I totally regretted man, I should have brought more guys. I should have brought more guys at least. And yeah, man, all of us were scared, for sure, scared. So yeah, that was probably the most scary moments I've had.
Yeah, I can understand why you were scared. Yeah, that's pretty intense. And everyone's got a plan until they get hit. You never know how you are going to respond when that punch finally does come in, but you didn't freeze up. You jumped into action and you took care of business. So you're definitely a doer. Jess, from what I understand, some guys in your team were researching in North Carolina not all that long ago, and they unfortunately ran into some people they didn't expect to see. Please expand on that for us.
Oh wow, yeah. There was a we had a team up there, and I've got several of my teammates that live up around North Carolina, and I'm not going to say the exact location, but it's around a national forest up there that's very well known. And they were doing some cryptid research. I know Bob was up there, David Pardue was there. Um, just a few of my guys were up there, and they said they were just kind of chilling out, and had a bunch of activity throughout the weekend. I think they were out there for a weekend, and one day these gentlemen just come trotting out of the woods wearing full SWAT gear. They said they had on, their bulletproof, their Kevlar, carrying their ARs and stuff, or whatever kind of weapons they had, and they're like military guys, but it wasn't like specific military gear, but they were dressed very militaristic. And my guys were like, well, what are y'all doing out here? Like, what are y'all doing? And they looked at them and they said, well, we're doing the same thing y'all are doing. And then they walked off. Now, this is in the deep woods of the National Forest in North Carolina. So I am positive that's what you're referring to, Vic, because that is it's something that's imprinted in all of us as researchers. It gives some validity to some of these claims that there is government involvement with the Dogmen and Bigfoot. And this is a national park where there's all sorts of different cryptid sightings. My buddy David, he'll be coming on my show actually in a couple weeks. He has videos of little people in this national forest. He has a long-term relationship where he's gone out and watched as little baby Bigfoots have grown into big Bigfoots, and has gotten video footage of all of it. They've kind of grown up with him. He's grown up with them out there in North Carolina. But Dogman sightings in this area as well. But it was 100% true. It did happen. There were men that came out of those woods dressed in military style uniforms, not specific any kind of military, any kind of SWAT team, but they were dressed like it, and they were clearly with some sort of agency, let's just say, and said they were doing the same thing that they were doing in that national forest.
I don't want to jump to conclusions here. I just want to verify. I know it's not lost on you that it's been said that government agencies will send teams, operatives out there to hunt rogue dogmen that are dangerous. From saying what you just did, does that mean that you do subscribe to the idea that the government does that?
Yes, I do. Actually, I do believe it, especially after that testimony, after what the guys told us happened out there. I mean, there were a big group of my friends out there that encountered those guys. So yes, 100%. I do believe that. And as a matter of fact, I have a good friend who does Bigfoot and Dogman research. It's not that he's even doing a lot of research. He's more just had a lot of encounters up in not the Catskill, the Adirondacks, up in New York. He is actually, I'm not going to get into specifics. He actually, I don't know if he wants to share with the public. This is someone who I'm pretty good friends with. He has some knowledge actually of some military stuff that's gone down. Let's just say it, not through him, but someone else. I have been sent some videos of helicopters. I guess it was like somebody filming from a helicopter. They were chasing down Bigfoots and stuff. I didn't see the final, whatever happened at the end of it. But there was definitely some night vision, and from the viewpoint of someone sitting in a helicopter, and they were chasing down Bigfoots for apparently like elimination or extermination, I guess would be the word. Wow. Unfortunately.
Yeah, just imagine the stories those people would have to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have some Jim Dandies. Before we move on, I want to put an announcement out there so that you know on Monday night, Hondo from episode 130, he's a special forces operative who had a Dogman encounter, and he came on episode 130 to tell us about it. Well, he's had some things happen since that episode aired. That was way back in January, I think, of 2017. But nonetheless, he'll be back on Monday night for a special midweek live stream episode of the show. So do the best you can not to miss that. That's going to be one you want to catch. Moving forward, Drew, have you ever had an experience like that where you ran into, apparently, with quotation marks, government operatives?
Yeah, so like I said, going back to when we were extracting that escaped convict, as we're coming down the mountain, like I said, there was a lot of 3-letter alphabet agencies out there helping us out too. So as soon as we got there, these guys in black BDUs and stuff went up after us. Like as soon as we were walking down, they were walking up. These guys were full kitted, same stuff we got, but they were different colors. They didn't have any insignias on them or nothing like that. They just had numbers. And we just thought that was weird, but we just thought they were going up there, just to kind of be kind of like the cleanup crew, kind of the guys who like sweep and and stuff like that. So it was basically just kind of like it was like that, and it really didn't put anything together until we got back to the precinct and started writing up our reports and stuff. And me and my buddy were talking about that, and we're like, what the? Okay, so we're kind of going over all the aspects of all the 3-letter agencies that were there, and the state police and local and stuff like that. So we're just kind of thinking about it, and I brought that up to his attention. I was like, hey, who are those guys in all black, man? And they had like the black camo and stuff like that. And he's like, you know what? I don't know. So so we're kind of put 2 and 2 together, and yeah, that's what I think. But I'm just throwing out theories here. But other than that, yeah. So that's it on that. That's the only run-ins I've had. But
When you research these things the way you two do, you never know. You just might have a run-in at any given time. You never do know. And with that in mind, Drew, doing what you guys do you have any concerns, fears about running afoul of the government?
Well, yes and no. To me, if I'm going to tread lightly on this one, yes and no. I'll just put it like that. Just like yes and no. To me, if you run into one and things get hairy, and if you bag one, I do believe that they're gonna come after you, to try to shut you up and whatnot. So, or basically, just keep tabs on you and stuff. Because I 100% agree with you, Vic. I 100% agree with Jessica. To me, they actually use these things as weapons. They actually weaponize them. They also go after them if they go rogue as well, and they use these things as test subjects too. Basically to release them out in the national parks and stuff to see what they do. And if they go rogue, they send out critter hitters, or they send out other cryptids to go after them. But yeah, to me, nothing would surprise me. So
Anything's possible. It really is. How about you, Jess? Is the risk of possibly running afoul of the government something that you've put any thought into?
Well, I did mention in the beginning of the show, I used to work in government. Okay, on a state level. It has nothing to do with what I do today, of course. But it's interesting because a lot of the guys that are on my teams are in government, actually, or have been at some point. I mean, the head of ASOG just retired from the Department of Defense in intelligence. Okay, so a lot of the people on my teams, and I'm not going to disclose who everybody is and what they do. Okay, but it's interesting. A lot of law enforcement officials, a lot of fire chiefs. Okay, and former and current military guys, and medics, and doctors and nurses, and like I said, a nuclear physicist, wildlife biologist, whatever. We've got like the A team. All my teams are like the A teams for cryptid research out there. I think about it sometimes, but I also know who I'm rolling with out there too, and I don't worry about it too much. I mean, I'm not out there hurting anybody or anything. I also know that I do get contacted a lot by random people who claim to be this and that, and It is what it is. There's people who have contacted me and told me, confided in me about stuff, like about being contracted to go out and unalive these, and I say unalive for YouTube, by the way. I know how this works. But unalive, the dogmen for agencies, let's just say, they say government. I got into asking questions about this, right? I've actually befriended a couple of these people. I've never met them personally, so I take it all with a grain of salt. But they claim, let's just say they claim that they have been contracted to go out and do what I call critter control. That's my term. I always say critter control. Whenever there's a rogue dogman, and it's specific to dogmen. Whenever there's a rogue dogman that goes out and it actually hurts a human, let's just say, or it's not doing whatever they're expected to do, whatever that is, and they go and they will hunt them down, which gives a little bit of validity to the rumors that the dogmen are part of some sort of government program or some kind of agency program, and they're being used as assets. For assets, I'm not sure. Maybe unaliving people, kidnappings, assassinations. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what they'd be used for. I have my theories, of course, but I've asked questions like, well, what do you do when you actually go after these dogmen and you are sent on you're contracted to go take care of them for the critter control? They say, well, we go out there and they got a team. They'll go out there and they'll shoot them, and they'll take them. They bag them up and they take them to the lab, is what I've been told.
Well, doing it as long as they've been doing it, and I'm sure they have been doing it for a long time, they must have this down to a science. I don't doubt that at all. Drew, both you and Jess are experienced trackers. How much has that skill helped you, though, while you've been out in the field looking for cryptids?
Well, it's definitely helped a lot. Like with Jessica and myself too. Just being prior law enforcement and dealing with tracking humans, basically. So it definitely has helped a lot when it comes to the footprints, how to read them, scat, stuff like that. It's definitely just a good tool on your tool belt, just to use. And if anybody wants to jump in cryptid researching, I definitely suggest that you guys go take like a basic like tracking class and like a survival class and stuff too, because to me, you guys are going to run into more of that than anything else. You guys are going to run into more medical problems than anything. So I would suggest you guys just get the cornerstones of the whole field craft and cryptid researching, which is medical tracking and stuff like that. So, and just and all your gear, and definitely train with it, because I know a lot of people go out there with brand new gear. They haven't even broken in their boots or anything like that. And not only that, stay in shape, guys. It definitely helps out a lot, because if you're not in shape, you're a freaking, how do you call it? You are not an asset. You are a liability, because if something happens to you and your team's got to walk you back, just because you're out of shape or something happened, because for one, you didn't test out your gear. But, like I said, basics, man. That's all it comes down to, is the basics. So, but yeah, going back to what you said, tracking does help. And it is it's definitely just a big tool to have on the tool belt for sure.
As important of a skill as that would be, you would think more researchers would be better at tracking, but seems like it's definitely a lost art that not many researchers have. It's just one of those things. Jess, in addition to hunting cryptids like Dogmen and Sasquatch, you hunt for things like vampires too. Now, I know a lot of people listening to tonight's show are probably rolling their eyes now, thinking about the fact that there are actually people out there who look for things like vampires, but what would you say to those people to help them wrap their minds around why you take their existence seriously enough to actually go out there and look for them?
Well, I take it very seriously, because I never went out actually looking for vampires. What happened was we got called out. Drewski and I got called out to an investigation up in North Tennessee this past year. And the family that was living on this property, they had a cave. Let's just say they had a cave about 30 feet from their back door at their home. And they just bought this house, and they were having all sorts of problems where their chickens were getting taken out of their pen. at night and disappearing. These are their prized pet chickens. They had cameras set up around the house, and they were having black figures slinking around, looked very much like Bigfoot or Dogmen around their yard, and we're having a lot of problems around this house. It was really spooky. And Drewski and I got called out, and the team, Cryptid Warfare operators, survival, got called out there. And it turns out, after doing some research before we went, we found out that this home actually sat on property that once belonged to the Choctaw people. And that cave behind her house actually was known as the Skinwalker Cave. And so I had never gone hunting for those before. Okay. I'd never experienced them that I know of. And so I had to, I didn't have to, but I did. I consulted with my good friend, William Nighthawk, who is a Native American shaman, to find out exactly what we're supposed to do when we come across something like, I'm just going to say a S-walker. Okay. Because we're not supposed to say that word too much. And the things that he told me actually sounded more like hunting vampires than it did what I would think would be, hunting a S-walker. It literally was like hunting vampires. And so there's definitely a spiritual aspect to all of this. But we were going there to go check it out. We were going to go check out the Dogman sightings and the Bigfoot sightings and just to see what was going on. But once you get into the field and you do this research, you see that all this is so connected. The spiritual aspect of all of this is very connected. And these are not all just flesh and bone creatures. There's more to it. In my experience, there's more to it. That includes dogmen. Some people think that all the dogmen are demonic, or some of them are demonic. People think that Bigfoots have a demonic element to them. You hear about the red eye shine, the red eye glow. I used to think, man, why that's terrible. Just because they got red eye shine or red eye glow, people think they're demonic. Well, the more I look into it and the more I'm out there, I don't know anymore. I think maybe some of them are demonic. I don't know. But yeah, we have to learn how to deal with all of it when we're out there. You'd be crazy not to. So, including Dogman research, and I know y'all were just talking about tracking. That is one of the fundamentals of getting out there and doing cryptid research. You have to know how to do. You have to know how to track. You need to know the animals of the area. You need to know the sounds. You need to know everything about that area that you're going in there to go research. You have to, if nothing else, go learn what a feline footprint looks like compared to a canine footprint. Okay, it's so important. Just stuff like that. Even learning human footprints. When I went out to learn tracking, I've done lots of tracking courses with my team, and it's not only in the summertime, springtime, fall, and winter. Okay, get out there and do it every season, so that you know what to look for and how to do it. Do tracking at night and in the daytime. It's important to know how to do that too. But just to know the elements, the fundamentals is key. It's key to all of this. But yeah, it's like I said earlier, you got to have an open mind about all of this stuff. And when you get into the research as deep as Drewski and I are in, you're going to come across more than just what you're out there looking for.
Yeah. You know what they say, be careful what you wish for or ask for. And that's especially true when it comes to looking for these things. It really is. Drew, a hardcore team member named Brian told you about a really frightening experience that he had in Alabama that really shook him up. What more can you tell us about what happened to him?
Yeah, funny thing is you mentioned that they actually went back like last month, and they had another experience as well. But anyways, so one of the guys, basically like one of my best friends, Poe Dunk, A.K.A. Brian, he is basically like my second in command when it comes to this team. So good dude. Him and his father and his nephew, they went out to Alabama in this certain area because they actually wanted just to go out and just camp. And with all of us, we were very avid campers. Well, we don't glamp. We actually put our rucksacks on and we go as far as we can in the woods, you know, and we set up and we basically try to put our survival skills to the test, you know, just to make sure that we're up on them. So we couldn't go, a couple guys couldn't go, so it just ended up being Brian, his father, and his nephew. So they ended up going, and they actually, I don't know, he couldn't pinpoint it, but his dad is a veteran, and he was in the war, and he's been in a lot of hairy situations. And he said, he's like Drew, he's like, I've never been so scared. He's like, I've been in a lot of situations, gunfire, stuff like that. He's like, I've never been so morbidly scared in my life than the freaking experience that we had in Alabama, man. So basically, they hiked in, they set up camp, and all this happened at night. Next thing you know, he said that they started hearing some things break, some things running around them, some growls, and they ended up being, all of them ended up being back to back with their pistols out, with these things just taunting them the whole time. And Brian's like, you know what, man? I don't think it was Bigfoot. I really think it was a dogman, like a pack of dogmen. Yeah, just, I don't know what it was. He's like, for one, just like the smells were different. Their body language, like hearing them yipping, was different. I don't know. He said he just felt just like a primal fear. He goes, but other than that, with Sasquatch, he's like, other than that, with Bigfoot, he's like, I never ever feel that. But something about this just gave me a primal fear, man. He's like, I really do think it was a dog, like a pack of dogmen out there messing with us. But as far as that, he said, we did not sleep the whole night, man. He's like, we were so tired and so scared. And then as soon as the light hit, we packed up and we got the heck out of there. And then, so he was telling me he was going to this area. So anytime the guys go to a certain area, like where I can't go, or, you know, or I'm going where they can't go, we always let each other know where we're going, where we're at, pinpoint the grid locations, and what time we're going to be back, right? And if we're not back in 24 hours, send in the freaking cavalry. So he let me know. So when he got back a day earlier than expected. He hit me up. He's like, hey, man, can you talk? I was like, what's up, dude? Like, I thought you were going to be camping. And he's like, yeah, like we seriously had to just drive back, and we had a certain situation happen. I was like, what happened? So him and I actually met up for coffee, and we talked, and yeah, he basically told me the same thing I just told you, man. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? He's like, let's get the guys, let's get the gear, bro. We're going back. We're gonna freaking investigate this. We're definitely going back. Okay, cool. So that's when I hit up my guys, and then I hit up Jessica, yeah, and then we headed out that way.
Yeah, sounds like a prime spot to research. Having action like that. Drew, it's my opinion that a lot of people go out looking for these things who have no business whatsoever doing so. Do you have any opinions on that you'd be willing to put out there for us?
Yeah, I agree. Like basically, like unlike what Jessica said, this stuff isn't for everybody, and it's not like the movie, guys, where it's like poetic and stuff. Like, this stuff is actually legit dangerous. And like I said, not only that, like, you guys can't be messing with something that you're just getting a high about. You have to do your research. You got to pray about it. You got to think about it. You know, you really got to do your homework on what area you're going to, what animals you might run into, how's the population, what people you might run into, what are you going to do if there's a medical situation. You guys got to think about stuff like that as well. What gear you're bringing, you know, because with us, the way how we pack accordingly is with the mission set, right? What we're going out there, what for. And not only that, like you said, you know, people really don't know what they're gonna. People always have a plan until they get hit. So, you know, it's like, that's what I said. It's just a whole stressful situation. If a person puts himself in stressful situations, how do you learn? You learn from experience. Well, if people never been out in the wilderness, don't know how to do basic survival, they're just going out there because they heard this podcast, like, hey, I want to be a cryptid researcher, and they don't have the right gear, they can go out there and they can actually die from hypothermia. They can die from a broken leg, a medical situation, like, guys, stuff like that. Being prepared and thinking about what you're going to do is key. Your mind is your biggest weapon, guys. You have to prepare. And like I always tell Jessica, you know, luck favors the prepared. So pack accordingly, do your homework, do your research, ask the locals where you're going, stuff like that. Try to gather as much intel as you guys can. The more you know, the better off you're going to be. And not only that, for God's sakes, if you're going to go out in the wilderness, work out a little bit, go on walks, put your gear on, test it out, because you don't want to go out there with brand new gear. That's how you get blisters. That's how you get stuff breaking. You know, you guys want to test out all your stuff before you go out cryptid hunting, or say cryptid researching. Man. Not only that, learn to track. All these things, guys. There's so much to learn. But like I said, your basics are fieldcraft survival, tracking, medical, and then not only that, get like-minded people that are on the same page with you. You know, who are not hot-tempered, who think, who, just, you know, and also, too, what helps out, too, is get someone out there who's a naysayer, you know, who can kind of bring you back to reality sometimes, because if you have a group of people that are on the same page, you will basically hope for something, and you will start to create a certain thing in your head. If you have someone who's a naysayer, he can actually bring you back to reality, like, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that was an owl. Or yeah, that was a deer or something, you know. Just, you know, you guys got to think about that stuff. So yeah, that's what I got.
You make some really good points. There's a reason why when you walk into a motorcycle shop, a dealership, and you're looking at leader bikes, and when the salesperson asks you for information about your experience riding motorcycles, and you let them know, well, I've never ridden before, there's a reason why they look at you the way they do in a situation like that. Yeah, you don't start off riding motorcycles learning the ropes on a leader bike for a good reason. Exactly. The same reason that if you've never been in the woods, or if you barely have any time at all in the woods, there's a reason why you don't go out looking for these things. Now, it's one thing to just go stumbling out there in places that you don't know that they are likely to be. It's just a woods, and, well, I'm going to go out into this woods and see what I can find. Well, you can find trouble other than Dogman related issues out there by doing that, but exactly. I mean, the odds of you having trouble with a Dogman by doing that are pretty slim.
Yeah.
But with some of these people listening to the show and putting it out there that they want to go out there and start researching themselves, and they put it out there also that you don't have any experience in the woods, that's crazy. That is just not a good idea. You can have a situation where the Dogman, Sasquatch, is benign, but due to this or that, things can go sideways. And if they do go sideways, how much you know about the woods and what's going on out there, that could be the difference right there between you making it home, sitting on the couch and thinking about, wow, that sure was quite the experience, and having groundhogs bringing you your mail. So, yeah, it's just crazy. Some of these people, it's just crazy, the idea that they would want to, that they would even think they're ready to go out and do this. It really is.
I agree.
Well, it's almost time for us to call it, guys. But before we do, two things. Number one, I want you to one by one plug your podcasts and also the organizations that you work with. Jess, please go first.
Thanks, Vic. Well, I'm also known as the Cryptid Huntress. So I have a YouTube channel, and I'm also on Rumble, and I broadcast on Facebook, but just look up the Cryptid Huntress. I have a website, thecryptidhuntress.com. I put out 4 live shows every week on my channel, discussing cryptids and all things crazy and weird. And we have a good time over there on my channel. And Vic, you're coming on my channel next week, as a matter of fact. So Vic will be my guest next Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, let's see. It's just the Cryptid Huntress all over the place. Just you can find me on social media all over. I am a member of Enigma Research Group, North Georgia Cryptid Researchers, Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, Seekers, and now Cryptid Warfare operators as well. So I do have a lot of boots on the ground, field research. I've been doing this since 2011. And yeah, if you guys have any kind of sightings, or have something that you'd like to be investigated, hit me or Drew up, please. If you're down in the southeastern region of the United States, we don't mind looking into stuff like that. We've had some really interesting investigations, and this team is pretty active. So thanks for letting us be here tonight, Vic.
Oh, thanks so much for being here. And I can't say enough about your show. The Cryptid Huntress, that's a good show. And the fact that you produce 4 episodes of it every week, I don't know how you do it. I mean, that in addition to being a mom and heading out into the field and everything else you do, you must not sleep.
I do sleep. I have to sleep, but I appreciate that. That's so sweet of you. Coming from you, that is a huge compliment, Vic. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Just telling it like it is. And yeah, you were born to do this. You're a great host. I do have a bone to pick with you, though. That intro, outro song that you use for the Cryptid Huntress, that is the biggest earworm there is. I think I'm almost to the point where I can understand the words that voice is saying in
I
that
don't think
song,
there's
but
a word.
that's a
I don't
great
think those are
song.
words.
Oh,
my
there
gosh.
aren't words in that? So that's what
I have no idea. It's just, well, I started off with the show called A Glitch in the Matrix, and I wanted to find the glitchiest song I could find. Okay, so that's why it sounds like that.
I love the
That's funny.
song. The first time I heard that, I thought, wow, Jess, that's a great intro / outro song. Great job finding that. But what in the world is she saying? What are the lyrics here? So you listen a little closer and closer and closer. Yeah, I figured pretty much it was a case where there weren't any actual lyrics, but yeah, great job finding that. Definitely.
Thanks, Vic.
You're welcome. How about you, Drew? How about a shameless plug on your part to promote your podcast and your organization there?
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having us on the show. And I gotta agree with you, Vic. Yeah, her her intro outro song's a banger, man, for sure. I like it.
It
Yeah.
is.
Okay. Other than that, yeah, guys, my name is Drewski. I'm the host of Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies podcast. You guys can find me on Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. So, yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and also too the organization I started up is CW Operations and Survival. It's basically where we teach people how to survive out in the wilderness. You know, your basics. Also too, if people are having problems, the CW is Cryptid Warfare Operations. You guys are having problems with critters or anything like that, you guys need any prayer, we'll be there to help you out. You guys need anything physically demanding, we will be there. We'll be glad, to be consultants for you guys. You guys need any help when it comes to that, let us know. We'll be there. So
You'll be in good hands too if they do contact you. Well, before I ask for any closing comments, I want to put this out there one last time. Like I said earlier, Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, there's going to be a special midweek episode of Dogman Encounters, a live stream episode where Hondo from episode 130 comes back to update us on what's been happening, what his experiences have been like since he came on that show. But now we've got that out there. The one last order of business is to ask for closing comments. Jess, please go first.
Well, thank you so much for letting us be here tonight, Vic. I was just thinking about all the times I've quoted you in your episodes on my channel and on my shows, and I was just thinking the other day about how amazing I've been able to make so many connections through all of the encounters that people have had that they've shared on your show. With other encounters that I've taken from investigations and things, it's all so connected. And so I thank you so much for being a platform for everybody who's had a Dogman encounter to come on here and tell their story, because it really does make a big difference in the research field for people like Drewski and myself. Not only are we finding out like the locations of where these sightings are, but we're getting real life encounters with people who've had real experiences with these things. And so it really does help us as researchers to be able to have to hear the encounters on your shows. So thank you for that. And I want everybody to please stay safe out there. Don't live in fear, y'all. Okay, don't live in fear. Drewski and I are out there doing it because we love it, and we've established it's not for everybody, what we do, but we do enjoy it. And yes, we'll report back to you guys what happens and what we find. Come over to Cryptid Warfare podcast and the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube, and also of course Dogman Encounters. So thanks, Vic.
Oh, no, thank you for your time. You're one of the good ones. So, of course, it's a pleasure to have you on. And please remember, if I can ever help you in the future, all you have to do is let me know.
Thanks, Vic. I will. Ditto.
Well, I appreciate it. I do. How about you, Drew? Any closing comments?
Yeah, man. First of all, Vic, I just want to say I appreciate you, brother, letting us come on and just chat a little bit. So appreciate that, man. Guys, the closing comments. Basically, like I said, if you guys are really thinking about doing this when it comes to cryptid researching, reach out to people who've been doing this for a while. Vic, myself, Jessica, or just other people. There's loads and loads of people out there who have been cryptid researching for a while. So, collect your intel, do your homework, do your research, test your gear. Always have exit strategies. Just do your homework, guys. Like I said, luck favors the prepared. Test your gear out, and guys, be safe, be safe, be safe, and don't go out there without a team of 5 guys. So, and have fun. Go out there, have fun, have a good time. Live life, and yeah, that's basically it, man. That's all I got.
Well, those are really good words. Yeah, if you're not having fun doing what you do, you shouldn't be out there. Of course, you're going to have some bad times out there. That's a given. That's just life. But if in general it's not fun, then why do it? So, yeah, I think that's very well said. I really do. But having said that, yeah, if you've had a Dogman encounter that you'd like to reach out to me and get help with, you don't have to come on the show. There's never a requirement to do that. You can if you want to, but there's no pressure to do so. Please go to dogmenencounters.com and submit a report and let me know. And if you do that, then I'll be more than happy to reach out to you to schedule a phone consultation so we can find out what's going on and what happened to you. But having said that, thanks again so much, everyone, for listening to the show, for supporting the eyewitnesses and all that you do. I really do appreciate it. And of course, hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for listening.